it seems to me that a lot of what we see as narcissism is actually something like prolonged immaturity. Now, it's a little more complicated than that. So the little kids that we studied, and this is true of those who've studied little kids in general. So there's about 5% of males at the age of 2 who hit, kick, bite, and steal when you put them with other 2-year-olds. And they're almost all male, and there's only 1 in 20. And so you could say most 2-year-olds aren't psychopathic narcissists by temperament. So these are probably the boys who are disagreeable extroverts by temperament, right? And so they're competitive, they're pushy, and they're, when they're very young, they're impulsive. Now, most of them are socialized by the age of 4. Now, our studies of long-term criminality indicated that it was the minority of that 5% who weren't socialized by the age of 4 that became the long-term predatory criminals. And it was very difficult to do anything about that after the age of 4. But that's also made me think more recently that what we're seeing as that narcissistic predatory parasitism is probably something like a failure of maturation. It's like, rather than being a pathology in and of itself, it's just the maintenance of self-centered immaturity far beyond its expiry date.
What if narcissism isn't really a disorder at all, but simply childhood immaturity that never grew up? Imagine the pushy 2-year-old who hits, bites, and steals. Now picture him at 25, still chasing attention, still demanding the world revolve around him. We often talk about narcissism as if it's a fixed pathology, something carved into the psyche. But developmental psychology suggests another lens. Research on early childhood aggression shows that about 5% of boys at age 2 display highly disagreeable, impulsive behaviors, hitting, kicking, biting, and grabbing what isn't theirs. Almost all of them are male, but crucially, most of them are socialized out of it by the age of 4. That process of learning self-control and empathy is what makes them functional members of society. The real issue arises when that socialization doesn't happen. Studies of long-term criminality reveal that the small minority who fail to mature beyond this early aggressive stage often grow into predatory adults. Those who exploit others show little remorse and treat relationships as opportunities for parasitism. Once past a certain age, change becomes incredibly difficult. It's not that they developed a new disorder later in life. It's that they never left behind the self-centered immaturity of early childhood. Seen this way, narcissism looks less like an exotic mental condition and more like a developmental arrest, instead of advancing into adulthood with responsibility, reciprocity, and foresight. The narcissist clings to a childlike worldview, me first, all the time. Freud's model even fits here. Narcissists often resemble people stuck in the phallic stage, obsessed with dominance, bravado, and showmanship. And while this can appear functional in adolescence, when testing boundaries and seeking independence is normal, remaining there into adulthood turns men into caricatures of strength rather than real leaders. This explains the appeal of figures like Andrew Tate to young men. To a 15-year-old searching for agency, the narcissistic extrovert looks like a step up from dependency and weakness. But what seems admirable at 15 becomes pathetic at 35 if no maturation occurs. True adulthood demands growth beyond the cartoon masculinity of ego and dominance toward responsibility, provision, and lasting contribution. So perhaps narcissism is not simply a personality disorder, but a failure of developmental progression. A prolonged adolescence masquerading as adulthood. It's not just about ego. It's about being stuck in a stage that should have expired long ago. The question we must ask is this: are we raising a culture that encourages boys to truly grow up, or are we normalizing prolonged immaturity as a lifestyle? And on a personal level, have you outgrown your own adolescent stage, or are you still living as the self-centered child in an adult's body?